Hi. So let's start with the AWS Session-1 VPC, Virtual Private Cloud. There are two types of VPC. One, default VPC and non-default VPC. Default VPC is by default available across all the AWS region. Okay. And non-default, which is something administrator has to configure manually. Okay. One example of the default VPC. We have one region name AP South East 1. Okay. This is a Mumbai. Of course, it's very close to me. This VPC, default VPC, having a CIDR range 172.31.0.0. In the default VPC, we have a 3 subnet. Each subnet, or I can say the subnet is the subnets are zonal. 172.31.32.0/20. See, look at here, guys. This is under default VPC, default CIDR. We have another subnet 172.31.16.0/22, which is assigned to 1B zone, and 172.31.0.0/20, which is assigned to 1C zone. In short, zone means in a one region you have a 3 different data center. You could have a 1 DC and 2 DR kind of thing. Okay. So other than subnet, other than CIDR, what are the other things which is available in the default VPC? Let first look at the VPC, default VPC. Just choose the VPC option, right? Click on your VPC. You will see the default VPC over here. See, this one is a default VPC. Okay. Then change the region, Singapore. You can see the default VPC. Of course, VPC ID is different because each VPC have the every VPC has its unique VPC ID. But however, CIDR range is the same, which is conflicting. Example, I have a few resources in the Mumbai default VPC and a few resources is in the Singapore default VPC. And now I want to allow the commission between the Singapore and Mumbai based on the default VPC. It is not possible. Why? Because both having the same CIDR and same subnets. It does possible. Again, you have to use the internal NAT gateway and everything, but it is a something different discussion. Okay. So if you change the another region, Tokyo, you will find the same CIDR range for the Tokyo default VPC, right? So guys, VPC is a regional, subnets are a zonal, right? Okay. Then click on the subnet. So under Tokyo, we have again 3 subnets, which is by default available. One main route table. Every VPC associate with by default one main route table. Can I create multiple route table? Yes, you can. Perfect. Then other than route table, your default VPC has a default IGW, Internet Gateway for the internet connectivity. Then your default VPC has a default network ACL. This is all about the default VPC. Question: can I delete the default VPC? Answer is yes. Select the default VPC, right? Action and delete the VPC. Once you delete the default VPC, what will happen? The resources created under default VPC will get deleted. For example, subnet, IGW, your network ACL, so many things. Okay. Then before delete, it will ask you delete default VPC, right? It's a warning, right? But definitely you can delete the default VPC, no impact. But if you have a resources and you try to delete it, it won't allow you to delete it because resource is already there. Okay. Then go back to our original region, AP South 1. Okay, here also we have a default VPC. Now let's talk about the non-default VPC. Non-default VPC you have to create manually. When you create a non-default VPC, it's up to you, right? What you want to create. You want to create multiple cider range under the VPC. You want to create a multiple subnets. You want to create a multiple IGW. You want to create a multiple network ACL. You can. Let's now click create VPC. When you create a new VPC, virtual private cloud, there are two ways to create or two methods. Number one, VPC only means create only VPC, name and cider. Do not configure any subnet, network ACL, no, nothing. Just create the name and the cider. Okay, no subnets, no availability zone. Once you create a VPC, then you can go and create the subnets, availability zone, depending on your requirement. Or it is a VPC only mode. Okay, let's go and create it. VPC only mode, mention name, DNAXT, web VPC. Cider range 10.10.0.0/16 and create. There are no other options, right? To choose the availability zone, to choose the IGW, right? To choose the NAT gateway, no option. See, now once you create the non-default VPC, you will get a unique VPC number. And here guys, you can see, right? This VPC is a default VPC? No, it is not the default VPC. This VPC has a main route table which is automatically created. Again, it's automatically create the network ACL, but it won't create any zone and the subnet. Why? Because you choose the option VPC only. Clear? Now, if you want to create a subnet inside this VPC named DNAXT web VPC, you have to go to the subnet and here you can click. These are the by the way, these are the default VPC subnet. See the range 172.31.16. See, right? This is the default one, right? Now, if you want to create subnet under newly created VPC, right? So choose the click on create subnet, choose the VPC, right? And here you can guys create the subnet, right? Subnet 1, then select the availability zone A, B, C, because in the AP South 1 we have only 3 zone. So why subnet required zone? Because subnets are a zonal. If you create any subnet in a 1A zone, that subnet you cannot use it in the 1B or 1C zone. Clear? We'll discuss about the subnet in later session. Okay. So subnets. So let me create one subnet. Okay. Quickly. Web subnet. Already zone 1A. Cider, of course, 10.10.0/24. And what's your subnet? 10.10.1.0/24. Correct. So you have to create a subnet manually if you choose the option to create VPC only mode. Okay. Next. Clear. Again, go back to the your VPC and now create a VPC. And here choose the option VPC and more. Once you click here on the VPC and more, you will see first you have to configure the name DNAXT web, not web, my bad, guys. DNAXT DB VPC. Look at here, guys. Now choose the cider range 10.11.0.0/16, and here is the option where you can define how many zones you would require, or in how many zones this VPC should be available, 3 or 1. If I click on a 1, see, it will create a two subnet. One is a public and private subnet in that particular region, AP South 1A. Right? We'll discuss later what is private, what is subnet, what is public subnet. If I click on the 2, it will create a total 4 subnet. 2 subnet in 1A, 2 subnet in a 1B. And one more thing, guys, right? Whenever you create whenever you mention or configure the VPC name, it automatically append, right? Look at over here. See, VPC name and subnet name, right? If I change the subnet VPC name, consider only DB VPC. Look at over here. Subnet name is changed. But this is the first time only during the VPC creation wizard. Once you save, and next time if you want to create any subnet, it won't take a VPC name. You have to configure manually. Okay. So for now, DNAXT VPC, DNAXT DB VPC, DB VPC. Okay. Now I want 3 zone. So what will happen then? Again, it will create a automatically it will create a 3 subnet. Total, my bad, 6 subnet, right? 2 in each zone. One public, one private, one public, one private, right? Okay. Then, do you want to customize the subnet? By default, it will take the random subnet and subnet mask. But if you want to specify the subnet mask, click on the customizability zone where you can customize the subnet. So now example 1A zone, if 1B zone and 1C zone, how many CIDR range you want to create under each zone, 0 or 3. So I have configured 3. And what are those subnets? Click here and here you can change it. If you want to change, you can change it over here. AP South 1A, by default it took a /20 subnet, but I want /24. I can change it from here, but we will go in detail when we start with the subnet, not now. Okay, let it be there, /20, doesn't matter. Then it will ask for the NAT gateway. Do you want to create a NAT gateway? Right, of course, IGW by default it will create. Even though if you choose the VPC only mode, still you will get IGW. If you choose the VPC and more, still you will get a IGW. In the both scenario, definitely guys, you will get a IGW. Okay. Then NAT gateway. Do you want NAT gateway? Right? Do you want to translate your mini IP address into one IP? NAT gateway. But I don't want. VPC endpoint? I don't want. Now do one thing, just click on create. It will show you what things VPC AWS will create under DNAXT DB VPC, right? 1, 2, 3, create. Okay, see guys, this is a list of right things, right? Create VPC, enable DNS host name, enable the resolution, then verify, then create a subnets, right? Two subnet in a each zone, means 3 into 2, total 6 subnets. Then IGW attached to the VPC. Then it's create a route table. Then it's associate the subnet with the particular route table, right? And just click on the view. Yeah. So no need to create anything, guys. Once you create a VPC and more option, you will get a subnet, you will get a route table, it will get automatic associate with the route table, then IGW associate with the VPC, everything. But we'll go in the detail. Don't worry, just the introduction session about the the default VPC and the non-default VPC. The question is, if I create the non-default VPC, can I delete it? Of course. If you can delete, if we are able to delete the default VPC, anytime we can delete the non-default VPC. Clear? Okay. So this is again brief about the default and the non-default VPC. So next is the next session is for the CIDR, right? Thank you so much. Bye bye.